everyone, my name is Kate Nesbitt. I'm a PhD student in marine biology here at Scripps Institution of Oceanography, and I'm also a coordinator for the SCOPE program, which is the Scripps Community Outreach for Public Education. We're going to take you through the Hubbs Hall Experimental Aquarium today on a virtual tour since we're sad you can't make it here in person. So if you'll come with me, we'll take a look inside. Welcome to the inside of the Hubbs Hall Experimental Aquarium. What you'll notice right off the bat is it doesn't look like your traditional public aquarium. For example, the Birch Aquarium just up the hill. This is because we have a number of different researchers and ongoing projects that are currently, in progress as we walk through the facility. What I typically like to do when people are able to visit in person is bring everyone through and we'll go row by row through the aquarium, talk a little bit about the organisms that we keep here and what research programs and the types of questions we're addressing using these organisms as our model systems. We have a really special treat for you guys right here at the entrance to our aquarium. In this tank right here, we have the egg casings of baby swell sharks. For sharks, there's two different modes of reproduction. Some give live birth, and others, like our swell sharks here, lay eggs. The egg casing is actually made from a keratin-based protein matrix, which is the same type of material that makes your fingernails or your hair. And the egg casing shape is actually different depending on what species you're looking at. For example, horn sharks lay an egg casing that looks kind of like a corkscrew. And another fun fact about the sharks that lay eggs is the embryo inside develops kind of like a chicken, where there is an egg yolk mass that sustains the embryo as it continues to grow, and eventually the baby shark will hatch out of its egg casing and swim off into the ocean. Over here in these tanks, we have another really exciting creature. These are bat stars, and they're being worked on by the research lab of Dee Dee Lyons. These are actually the inspiration for the character Patrick, if any of you are fans of SpongeBob SquarePants, the cartoon. But beyond the fact that Patrick's character has insatiable hunger, in reality, sea stars are voracious predators, and they will eat anything that they can get their stomachs wrapped around. So if you look here, the way that they feed is they actually stick the stomach out of the mouth, and the mouth is located on the underside of the animal, and they will secrete digestive juices and begin to feed as they, engulf their prey items and bring it into the body. You'll also notice they have their little tube feet, which are these rows of suckered tentacle-like structures, and that helps them to crawl around on the ocean floor or stick to the side of the tank when they're ready for a snack. In this row of tanks, we have sea urchins, and there are three main species that we bring into our aquarium here at Hubbs Hall. The first are these little guys. These are the painted white urchin, and the scientific name for them is Lidocynus pictus. These are part of an exciting new research project being run by the Hamdoon Lab for right of me contain white sea bass, and this is a collaborative project being led by the lab of Martine Tresgueras. The general theme of their research program is comparative physiology, which means looking at different types of organisms to understand how they do what they do in order to survive. They've looked at fish, such as these, coral, and even leopard sharks. One of the questions that they're addressing with all of these different model organisms is regarding pH regulation, or the regulation of acid and base concentration in different biological tissues. For example, fish have mineralized structures in their inner ear that are called otoliths, and climate change predicts that the ocean chemistry will change in a process called ocean acidification. Ocean acidification can make it more difficult for animals to form mineralized structures like our fish otoliths, and since the otoliths are important for balance and orientation of the fish, it could impact how they get around and go about their daily lives in the ocean. In this larger tank here, we have some bait fish as well as our little round rays. Round rays are a type of cartilaginous fish, and they're commonly found along La Jolla Shores Beach. If you plan to go to the beach at any time if you're here in San Diego, I would recommend using the Stingray Shuffle. It's common for people when they're walking in the water to get stung by stingrays, but it's a natural reflex for them when they accidentally get stepped on. So if you're at the beach, you want to take your feet and leave them on the sandy bottom and just shuffle bit by bit instead of reaching up and stepping, that way you don't get stung. Our stingrays are a close cousin to another La Jolla native, which is the leopard shark. Leopard sharks are commonly found aggregating along the beaches here in San Diego during the summer months when pregnant females warm their bellies on the sand and enjoy the sunshine. And especially because La Jolla Shores, the Cove is a marine protected area, it provides a safe haven for them to reproduce during their life cycle. In some of these smaller tanks, we keep a number of really fun organisms that are really exciting to look at, including a group of animals called nudibranchs. Nudibranchs are sea slugs. They're a type of mollusk, and the name or word nudibranch actually means naked gill. Many of them have a little cuff on the dorsal or back side of their bodies that looks like a little bunny tail. And this actually is a tuft of feathery gill that they use to breathe underwater. In addition to the gill, they also have a set of structures called rhinopores, which look like little bunny ears. And these are chemosensory structures that essentially act like a sense of smell underwater and allow them to detect food or predators in their environment. In addition, this one here is called a Mulliner's Dorid. It has a yellow body with brown spots on it, almost like a giraffe pattern, and they sit kind of flat like a pancake. Another fan favorite in our aquarium is this fancy little decorator crab. These are a crustacean that's common and native to the shores of California. This guy is quite feisty, and they actually take little pieces of seaweed or shells and they stick them to their body, and that's why they get the common name the decorator crab, because they adorn themselves with little pieces of marine debris. Behind me is one of the latest additions to our research aquarium, and that is a marine transgenics facility. Transgenic means an alteration of the genome, or the DNA that is contained in the body. This is a collaborative project between the Hamdoon Lab, the Lyons Lab, and the Farley Lab, and we'll be using this facility to house transgenic sea urchins, sea stars, sea squirts, and snails. This better helps us understand the unique functions of genes in an animal's body and throughout their development, and we'll even be using CRISPR-Cas9 technology to help us with these types of studies. The last stop on our tour is our Thai Cool Touch tank. In this table, you'll see a number of different animals that you would normally find on tide pools off the coast of Southern California. One of my personal favorites are our anemones. These are from the phylum Cnidaria, so they're close cousins to jellyfish, for example, and they have a specialized structure called a nematocyst, which is a stinging cell that they use to help them capture prey. We can actually touch them because the nematocysts aren't big enough to pierce through human skin, so when you touch it, it just feels sticky, kind of like Velcro. They use the tentacles and the stinging cells contained within them to bring food, capture it, and pull it into the mouth, which is right here in the middle. Another common animal that you'll find in our tide pools are sea cucumbers. These are relatives of sea stars and sea urchins as part of the group of animals known as echinoderms. And the word echinoderm actually means spiny skin. And you can see the little spikes all along the body here. They have a really interesting feature where they control the shape of the body with these strong muscles that line the body wall, as well as with hydrostatic pressure, the amount of water that's contained in the body cavity. So when they're relaxed, they can stretch out like this and crawl around. And when you pick them up, those muscles contract and they turn into this little potato-looking thing. If you flip them over, you can see their mouth on one end, and they have some feathery tentacle-like structures that they use to filter feed particles out of the water. When they're threatened by a predator, they can actually completely eviscerate themselves and puke up all of those internal organs. So the predator will chow down on the gooey bits while the rest of the animal crawls away. And they have amazing regenerative abilities where they can regrow all those internal organs, sometimes in a matter of just a few weeks. Over here we have some fun critters, including brittle stars, which are these spidery looking guys over here, which are close cousins to our sea stars and sea urchins. And this orange lump is actually a sea sponge. So if you ever wondered what SpongeBob really looks like, here's your answer. Right here we have a keyhole limpet. This is a type of marine mollusk, so similar to a snail. And these guys are really fun because they actually have an internal shell, and that's this calcified portion right here. And they get the name the keyhole limpet because the shell actually forms a hole straight through to the inside of the body, forming what looks like a little keyhole. So this is what the shell looks like without the rest of the animal. You can see his little head over here with his antenna, or sensory structures. He's sniffing around. And this outer layer of tissue here can actually retract, and they can pull it over, exposing the hard shell to protect them against predators. Another animal that we see frequently in our tide pools are these little fellows. These are the California chestnut cowrie. They have this beautiful smooth shell, which they keep protected from getting encrusted by algae or other little things by wrapping this soft, smooth tissue layer over the shell to keep it clean. When they are threatened by a predator, they can retract this layer of tissue to expose the shell and keeping them safe and protected. One of the more charismatic creatures that we have in our aquarium are our octopuses. These are close cousins to squids and cuttlefish and part of a group of organisms known as cephalopods. One interesting feature about these types of animals is they have special cells called chromatophores that are embedded in the skin, and these cells change shape, which allows the animal to change the apparent color and texture of the skin, allowing them to have amazing camouflage abilities. Interestingly, they don't see in color, and they have unique properties or features about their eyes. Our octopus here, for example, has a rectangular-shaped pupil, and cuttlefish have a pupil that is shaped like a W. And this is very different from you or I, and humans have a round pupil. Thank you so much for joining us on our virtual tour today. We hope to see you here in the future sometime soon.